This is the Nissan Patrol Warrior, and it's the off-road enhanced hardcore version of the Y62 that has been locally developed and engineered here in Australia by Premcar, and one of the very last big 8-seater off-roaders that you can buy with a naturally aspirated 5.6 litre V8. And as your companion before walking into the showroom, I'm going to run you through everything you need to know and take this on the road and off the road to see if this is the ultimate patrol. And before we start, please like, share, subscribe and hit that bell, and let's get straight into the video. First, let's talk about what you need to know before walking into the showroom. The Patrol is the type of vehicle that competes with the Toyota Land Cruiser GR Sport, the V8 versions of the Land Rover Defender, and I've also included some other rivals on your screen. And already the Patrol looks like great value because the whole range starts from $90,000 before on-road costs, climbing up to $105,000 for this top grade Warrior version. And this is available in 4 different colours. And when it comes to ownership, warranty and running costs, everything you need to know is on your screen. Right, let's now talk about styling. So I've already done a detailed review on the Patrol TI model grade on which the Warrior is based on. So let's run through some of the changes. First up, you get a 50mm lift, and this also sits on a wider track. There's also a piano black open air vent, a 2.3mm bash plate with plastic cladding on the bottom sections and across the wheel arches, and redesigned bumper bars to help give you better clearance. And of course you get full automatic LED headlights with auto high beam, LED fog lights and headlight washers to clean the headlights from when you are going off-road. Moving on to the side view, you get a set of 18-inch alloy wheels that are finished off in black and complemented by the silver finish, and they are wrapped around in all-terrain tyres, and Premcar has also re-engineered the hydraulic body-controlled suspension. There are also black mirror caps, Warrior decals across the side, dark tinted privacy glass, plastic side steps, red painted springs, and a side exhaust system which sounds pretty impressive. Take a listen. And now, coming to the rear design, at the back, full LED tail lights with sequential indicators. There are also 2 recovery points and a Warrior specific towing package with an upgraded GVM and a full-size spare wheel. And as always, styling is subjective, so write down your feedback of what you think of the Nissan Patrol Warrior. Here on the inside, the biggest change to all Aussie versions of the Nissan Patrol is this updated centre section featuring centre mounted air conditioning vents, this updated 12.3-inch touchscreen, a wireless phone charging pad, and an updated central screen integrated within this cluster that also features an off-road view monitor. And like I said, the Warrior is based off the TI, so you get a 2-tone brown and black colour combination on the dashboard, this velour trim across the door panel, but you do get suede inserts over on the top section, and opposed to wood grain, gloss black over in the centre. And in terms of build quality, the door slam feels pretty solid, and it's also soft and squidgy on the top section where you rest your elbow over on the centre console and working your way up towards the dashboard, nice and squidgy. It does get a bit durable when you do look lower down on bottom surfaces, and whilst the 4-spoke wheel is finished off in leather, it only offers reach adjustment, not tilt, which brings me on to comfort. You get these synthetic leather seats with perforation and diamond stitching, and they are pretty comfortable to sit in, but not supportive going around corners. The passenger side gets 8-way electronic adjustment, and for the driver, 10-way electric seat adjustment with lumbar, and free zone climate with physical dials and buttons. Now, moving on to infotainment, it all runs off this 12.3-inch touchscreen, which includes controls down the bottom here, dials up the top here, and some buttons on the wheel. And whilst the system is basic, it's a pretty easy interface to get your head around, and you can also configure the split screen as well. And there are also key features like voice recognition, inbuilt satellite navigation with 3D mapping that looks pretty crystal clear. You also get an 8-speaker sound system, which sounds pretty decent, along with AM, FM, USB, Bluetooth, and for smartphone integration, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which are both wireless. Next, moving on to safety, if I click on the camera button, that is going to take you into a surround view camera system, and there are multiple angles and views to pick from, depending on your preference. Plus, there are also front and rear parking sensors, which you can turn off with this button here when you are going off-road, a rear cross traffic alert, and also an auto-dimming rear vision mirror. There's also autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, a lane departure warning with a lane keeping assistant, adaptive cruise control, and finally speed sign recognition integrated within this 7-inch screen. And you can cycle between different menus looking at speed, fuel consumption, mapping directions, and there's also a new off-road view monitor, which brings me on to the off-road controls. Drive modes down the bottom here between on-road, sand, snow and rock. And for on-road driving, you just leave it in auto, and when you are going off-road, you can cycle between four-wheel drive, high range and low range. This button here is to enable hill descent control. This button here, your rear differential lock. And when it comes to storage and connectivity, we'll start with the sun visors. There are vanity mirrors behind here with slide out sections to block out sun, plus a sunglasses holder over on the top section, a decent sized glove box that fits the owner's manual in, and a wireless phone charging pad along with a 12-volt socket, USB A and C port, 2 cup holders over in the center, and decent center storage with this little tray. And finally, the door bins are pretty spacious as they can fit a large water bottle. But it is worth pointing out that the car is higher, so climbing in and out, it isn't as easy compared to other big off-roaders, but overall pretty good because you do have these grab handles. There's also keyless entry with push ignition start, along with a remote key, and you can also connect this car to your smartphone to access remote functions and check the status of the vehicle. And the car is also connected, so you can run software updates as well. Here in the second row, with this seat set in my position, I've got plenty of knee room, plenty of toe room, and loads of headroom, and you can also recline the seat backwards and forwards for additional comfort. And there are also grab handles on the B-pillar to make accessibility a bit easier, plus grab handles up the top here, lighting, air vents, and down the bottom here you'll find buttons for the climate control. And you can also open up the glove box from here as well. And there are also 2 USB-A charging ports and a 12-volt socket. Map pockets behind the front row seats. Decent door bin storage that could also fit a large water bottle. And over in the center, a flop down armrest with 2 very small cup holders. And finally, for child seats, the 2 outboard seats are ISOFIX compatible. And right behind me, there are 3 top tether points. Here in the third row, with this second row seat fixed into position, knee room is very tight, so is toe room and headroom as well. So you really need to recline this back, and that is going to furthermore improve your leg room. But toe room and headroom is just about okay for this class of vehicle. So like in the Toyota Land Cruiser 300 series, the third row seats are only suitable for children. However, this being based off a TI, this features an 8-seat configuration with 3 rows of seats back here. There's also a seat belt up the top there and a single top tether point for a child seat. And there are also cup holders on either side, grab handles and directional air vents. Right, moving on to the boot space. Firstly, being based on a TI, not a TIL, you don't get an automatic power tailgate, so a manual tailgate. And of course the Warrior does sit up higher compared to the standard Patrol, which means loading items into the back might be a bit of a challenge for some people. But from what I can see back here with the third row in place, not only it is a bigger third row comparing it to the Toyota Land Cruiser, I reckon you can fit 2 carry-on suitcases back here, and if you need even more space, you can pull on those levers and that is going to give you even more boot volume. And of course, if you want to fold down all of the seats, you walk over to the back, fold those down, and you've got yourself one practical big off-roader. And for all the key dimensions on boot volume, everything you need to know is on your screen. And if we have a look around, you get a 12-volt socket, shopping bag hooks, tie-down points to keep items in place, a light up the top here, and a little bit of underfloor storage, and that is also the location for your toolkit. Before we go for a drive, let's cover off the powertrain. You get a 5.6 litre naturally aspirated petrol V8, developing 298 kilowatts and 560 newton meters of torque. And this is paired to a 7-speed torque converter gearbox, a four-wheel drive system, and like many of its other rivals, the Patrol sits on a body-on-frame construction. And this also features hydraulic body motion controlled suspension. There is also a limited slip differential. And when it comes to towing, GCM, GVM and payload, I've put out all of the key figures on your screen. And for off-road driving, front and rear departure angles, again, everything has been put out on your screen. So let's go for a drive on the road to see how it performs, and we're also going to do some off-road driving as well. Right, moving on to driving impressions. Over the bonnet there's decent forward visibility and you do sit up nice and high. Good side vision, decent rear visibility as well. However, the side mirrors could be a bit bigger in my opinion, or at least wider. And whilst you do get a surround view camera system, the picture quality isn't perfect. But that said, on a Toyota Land Cruiser 300 series, the camera system isn't great on that either. And in terms of your controls, a traditional gear selector, 7-speed automatic with a manual mode, a foot operated parking brake and a hydraulic steering setup. So it is safe to say that this does feel like a 15 to 16 year old car in terms of development, and that means at low speeds the steering does come across a bit heavy and you do have a wide turning circle, and you will notice that particularly when you are parking. But on the upside, the Patrol does have a lot of character in terms of the way it drives. So you've got a good sense of what the front wheels are doing, and combined with that hydraulic suspension setup, there's hardly any body roll at low speeds. But look, it is a body on frame construction vehicle. It's going to have a bit of nosedive and a bit of body roll when you do build up the speed on the motorway. And around town and on the open road, it is a very comfortable car to sit in. Yes, the seats could be a bit more supportive because you do move around in them a lot. There is a bit of wind noise coming into the cabin when you do pick up speed, but overall it is a comfortable car to travel around in. The gearbox also shifts nicely for the ratios. It is a 7-speed gearbox, not a 9 or 10 speed like in some of the other rivals, but I think it cycles through gears pretty well. And in terms of driver assistance, there are no driver fatigue monitoring systems or any annoying beeps and bongs. The adaptive cruise control worked very nicely on the freeway. That was also easy to engage. And you still get blind spot monitoring, forward collision warning, and all of the other crucial safety systems. But I think the best thing about the Patrol, specifically this Warrior version with the side exhaust, is the way it sounds. And in terms of acceleration, when you do put your foot down, it does build up speed pretty quickly. And here is this car going from 0 to 100. And lastly, fuel consumption. The official claim is around 14 litres per 100, and around town you should average around 17 litres per 100, but I did get the figure down to around 9 to 10 litres on the freeway, and that was setting the adaptive cruise control, going down a hill, and that is something that you need to accept buying a big 5.6 litre V8. Right, the off-road driving impressions. Down the bottom here, the Nissan Patrol runs in full-time four-wheel drive on a sealed surface, and if you put it into 4H, that is four-wheel drive for an unsealed surface, and there are 4 different drive modes. So we are on a bit of dirt. I'm going to try sand to see if that does anything with the traction, and I've got it in 4H. So if you put your foot down in this drive mode, this is meant to limit wheel slip on the dirt and or particularly sand. And if you go back onto on-road, that is just driving on a settled dirt road. And rock, that is when you are climbing up hills. And we'll try just four-wheel drive high range. So put it back into 4H and just go up. And now going up this hill, we're going to enable 4 low. And now let's try the hill descent control. So enabled. It does move down very slowly, and this is the big dip. But it seems to work just fine. I've still got it in the sand mode. Maybe if I put it on road, it might be quicker. Okay, with the on-road driving mode, going down this hill. Okay, it is quicker. Alright, I'm going to do the last one myself. Even though the camera's not all that impressive, it does help having a camera when you're off-roading. So then, my conclusion on the Y62 Nissan Patrol Warrior with the updated interior. Well, there is no doubt this will become a future classic, and don't forget, the Patrol is already significantly cheaper compared to other four-wheel drive vehicles out there. A car that is already off-road capable, plus all of the off-road enhancements. So, in my opinion, get one while you can. But tell me in the comments down below, would you go for this or a Toyota Land Cruiser GR Sport or any other rival? Let me know your feedback, and before I go, please like, share, subscribe, hit that bell, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.